Hello guys, in this video we will be research and developing the look of the destruction. We are right where we left off from the last video and we will continue from there. So, as you can see, the first problem is these pieces at the bottom are going through the bottom end of the ship. This is because we don't have any collisions on the bottom, so we're going to prepare that now. Put down a geo node, call it ship collision. Go to your static, put this in, put a null in, name it out static 1. Go to your bottom destruction, put a null there too, call it out bottom 1. Again, don't worry about the animation first. We are going to just settle with the collision and then we can bring in the animation again. So put down an object merge. Bring in your static. Alt click drag, copy paste. Bring in your bottom destruction. Okay, merge them together. So as you can see, this cover from the bottom will prevent the pieces from going through the bottom of the spaceship. Put this as out collision bottom. And what we'd like to do for this is turn it into a VDB. So I'll show you guys. Put down a VDB from polygons. But with this, there's gonna be a few problems. Just wait a moment. So you guys can see this top part right here is not doing too well if we shrink it down. This is caused by these areas only having one side. The purple parts are the back of the faces. Oh, sorry. The purple parts are the back of the faces, so we need to cover this. Because we didn't prep it, it would be a hassle to go back to Maya and prep it again, so I'm going to show you a tiny trick. Put down a poly extrude. Increase the distance a bit. You guys can see this tiny ledge is the distance. Scroll down, check on output back. Okay, everything is covered. nicely done. We didn't prep this part or anything, we just extruded it a bit so it won't be that noticeable anyway. And if you put a VDB down, it should look okay. It shouldn't have these pixelated things anymore. It reduced them. If not, you can increase this size tiny bit. Or you can increase this to make it thicker. And decrease this again. Yeah, so this generally looks fine. It's a pretty good collision, so we're going to put a null down. Call it out VDB1. Okay. Jump in your dot. Put down a merge. Might want to start from 14, which is the start frame. Put down another static object. Plug it in. You can name this so you know which is what is which. Ship collision. Switch this to volume sample. Go down here, there's the proxy volume. You guys can go to your node, which is ship collision, and put the out VDB1 in there. And in the subpath, you put your out collision bottom. Okay, it's in. If you want, don't display geometry. You can check the collision guide. It might take a while because it's heavy to calculate. Okay, finally loaded. It's really heavy. That took 2 to 3 minutes to load, but as you can see, it's perfect. Nice collision. Can switch this off now and click on use object transform, create active object, and use deforming geometry. Let's see if it still drops. Need to go out to see. Okay, looks like there aren't any more pieces going down because we have good collision. So that's fantastic. Or can just flip book it if you want. Can switch off the sphere visibility. So we just have that. Flip book with new settings. Resolution, turn it to your camera settings so it's not going to be squished. Output is fine. Start. Okay, as you guys can see, this is not moving. Forgot to put in the animation, so wait a moment. Press escape. Okay, go to your ship collision and bring in your animation, which is this one. Control C, Control V, plug it in, Alt drag, put it in here also, so it should move along. Press escape to start. Apparently the top of the spaceship disappears if it doesn't start from frame 1, so can just simply switch it back to frame 1. It won't hurt. So should be looking good now. Okay, moving on, we're going to develop the space floaty feel, and I can start from the sphere, ghost other objects, hide these first, go here, click on the brain to temporarily stop your simulation to edit this easier. Let's say I want this to go to the front a bit. I want it to nick this area, so slightly move it forward and maybe scale it. Middle mouse, you can go up and down to adjust the size, go left and right to quickly move the size along so you guys don't have to adjust by typing every time. Increase it a bit. Go up here, set it the same size. A trick that I'd like to do is when it gets there, to prevent the pieces from knocking into this ball later in the .NET, which is going to look very weird, I'd like to give it, let's say, 2 frames and then scale it way down. So let's make it like, oh, I have to keyframe it, so I'll just use this instead. Scale it way down so it doesn't interfere, it's very small. Okay, so do this. So once it gets here, it'll just scale down and disappear, so the pieces that come flying out won't knock into the invisible sphere later on. Okay, let's try it out. Escape. Let's flip book. Okay, you guys can see some pieces are getting stuck there, but we'll fix it later. I think the animation is too fast, so we're going to go ahead and slow that down. Escape. Go back to your sphere. Click the brain icon. Click this. Adjust the positioning. Maybe slightly slower. Move this down. It should go slower now. Enable the sim. Escape. And flip book again. Ooh, that's looking quite good, except for these stuck pieces here. So let's see if those are visible from the camera. You can take a lot of time just to edit the sphere collision to make it look as good as possible before manually adjusting the speed. It's up to you, but this is the way that I like to do it. To me, it's easier and way more efficient. Okay, just a bit more. I'll move it a bit more forward. But it's getting there. It's slowly getting better. I want to knock this part off though, so let me just try a couple of things. Go to the collision. Move tool. Oh, Control Z. Move this forward. Move this backward. And maybe scale it up a bit. So it'll knock on these pieces. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, this part is getting blown off, but I don't really like this bending part, so maybe we shouldn't have scaled the sphere up. Can go back and undo that. scale it slightly down, maybe. Okay, for now, let's just say we'll ignore this and try to fix it using the glue strength, which I am going to touch in the .NET now. So let's go to the .NET. Go back, reset the sim first. Go here. Go in the .NET. Set sim. And go to the glue constraint relationship. Make it way higher. Okay. Let's try. Let's maybe put this on 20 first, or 17, since the start is around 21. So let's change this. Flipbook start is 17. As you can see, the glue is helping keeping this intact so it doesn't bend off. But now it's flying very fast, very far. So we will just wait for a while. Okay. So you guys can see the collision this part is affecting. Okay, maybe I'll turn on the parts after that. Isn't this part moving though? Wait a moment. Okay, it's breaking off. And the reason is is it because of the group? Or is it because of the collision? Let me check for a while. Okay guys, I have found out why it was cracking before, and it was because of this second one we created, which is this attribute wrangle. Just delete these two other lines that we put down, which is I add animated equals 0 and I add deforming equals 0. We needed the deforming so it still keeps moving. So yeah, that's it, and no more crack. So we are going to continue with this. You guys can change the fracture pattern if you guys want to make it smaller to get more detail. And oh, I switched this off. We're going to turn that back on so it doesn't fall through. Let's see. Looks fine now, but guess we can afford a bigger sphere for a bigger impact. So we are going to scale up our sphere a bit. Put this at 0.5, that 0.5. Can turn these on if you want to get a good look. Oh, maybe just flipbook that. Okay, this piece is still getting stuck, so we are going to nudge that forward since that piece has been getting stuck the whole time. So go to your sphere and nudge this forward a bit more. Maybe disable the rest for 1 second. Turn this back to 1. Let's just see first. Press escape. Okay, you guys can see. Let's just say I'm fine with that for now, and can try flipbooking with the other stuff on so we can actually see what's going on and with what it is colliding. Okay, let's take a look. Don't worry about those floaty pieces, we'll just fix them later. For now, let's try to get rid of that dropping and get the floaty feel first. Okay, so it's caused by this gravity. I mean, we can try to put it on 0, but I find that it still drops when it's 0, so what I do is I just disable the gravity for a start, and let's just see how that looks first. As you guys can see, it just floats away, and even these are rising up, which is giving the floaty space feel. Why is this still not moving though? Hold up for one moment. Middle part. Oh, just put this in the animation. No wonder it wasn't moving. So yeah, now we are going to slow down the speed of this. So what I'd like to do is put down a pop speed, if I can type it, speed limit. Pops are particles, and when we use particles to fracture the RBD, so each fracture piece has a particle point in it, so technically we can control the scatter points using this node. So we're going to turn on maximum speed and maximum spin, and let's try with maybe 8 and 3, and let's see how that goes. Oh, and maybe just to slow it down, alt click. Oh, I should probably start from frame 17, so alt click there, and let's say by frame 30 I want it to slow down to 0.5 and 0. I don't want it to spin anymore, so let's see the difference. Reset the sim. Let's test it out. Okay, let's take a look. It's still very fast, so we can try something else. That is increasing the ship's density. Let's pump it up high, maybe 6,000. Turn down the bounce. Turn up the friction a bit. And maybe limit this less. So put this as 6.5 and put this as 2 or maybe 6. Can try that first. Okay, let's see. Now it's starting to get pretty slow, and this chunk breaks off. It's still spinning very wildly though, so we'll try to slow down the spin even more and maybe put a pop drag at the back. So let's do that. Okay, put down a pop drag, plug it here, and activation. Stop your sim, activate it maybe on frame 22, so set keyframe, put it as 0 first, and go to 24, put it at 1. As for the air resistance, just put it down a tad bit. It doesn't need to be that high, maybe a bit more. We can try that out first. Let's take a look. Okay, I'm just observing the pieces. They're still spinning very fast actually, but some of these will get covered by the explosion, so in my opinion this is a pretty good start actually. And maybe you can play with the pop speed limit a bit more. Decrease this maximum spin to maybe 1.2. And maybe just increase the glue a bit. And maybe put your start frame back at 1. Turn the sim on. Right click, flipbook with new settings. Put this back to 1. Start. Let's see. A lot of these are getting blasted away. Of course, you guys can slow them down. Just decrease it a bit more. But generally, this is what I'd be going for. Just maybe a bit slower, and these tiny pieces are also floating up. If you have tiny pieces like this spinning around too wildly, you can just pause the simulation in the middle, take that one piece and just blast it out, because no one's gonna notice. Instead of trying to fix that one annoying piece, just delete it immediately. So for now, I would be okay with this, just a bit slower. You guys can R&D as much as you want. I'll show you how to add a second simulation. So go back to your prep, and for example, you want a second simulation here. You already have your box, right? So just create another group. Keep in by bounding regions. View this one. Drag it along. tried to isolate and I don't know why that's not appearing in the viewport. For example, you want the second explosion to be right beside it. Just isolate this part here, move it down. Let me check something. Yeah, for example, you want that part, right? So just go here, name this group the same. So put as active, and instead of replace existing, union with existing. Do not forget this, if not it won't work. And that's all you need to have another bounding box. You just need to make it union with existing. You guys can bring this into a separate .NET if you want for the second sim, and the rest of the process is just rinse and repeat. For now, you guys can cache this out. Put down a .import. Bring in your .network, which is .NET 1. Import style, change it to fetch unpacked geometry from .network, because if you guys remember, we packed the geometry, but we need the UVs, so we need to unpack it first to get the UVs back. So later in the render, we can actually put textures on the simulation area of the ship. As for the object mask, we also need to change this. So go to your .network. And for the RBD packed object, rename this as mothership, so that you can mask it in the object mask here. So type in mothership. What happens if you don't mask it is that this .import will also import the sphere which we used for a collision. So we don't want that, we just need the spaceship, so therefore we mask the mothership. Put down a file cache. I cached this beforehand, so if you go here, there's actually the destruction 1 cache. For the formatting, you need to type destruction1.$f.bgo.sc. So you click accept and you just hit save to disk, but I'm not gonna do that since I already cached it, as I said. In the next lesson, we will be starting the basic setup for the pyro.